While I was on vacation, my mom sold my house to pay off my sister's $214,000 debts. When I came back, they mocked me. Now you're homeless. I just smiled. What's so funny? They snapped, irritated. I replied that the house they sold was actually. My name is Benjamin. I'm 32, a real estate agent who lives out of color-coded calendars and open house cookies. Oldest child, default problem solver. The one who carries toolkits in his trunk and extra contracts in his glove box. If something leaks, breaks, or cries in my family, it somehow becomes my job. I wasn't the golden kid. That was my younger sister, Natalie. She was the story, the drama, the fire alarm. I was the fire extinguisher. People think being an agent is all fancy kitchens and easy commission checks. It's not. It's 6 a.m. appraisals, basement mold, and clients who fall in love with the wrong house. Still, I liked it. I liked putting keys in hands and saying, "Welcome home." Maybe because home was the one thing I always wanted to build for myself. A quiet, steady place nobody could yank away. The night before my trip, I stood in my living room with suitcases by the door and a travel pillow looped around my neck like a donut. Airbnb renters had just left, the cleaners had just finished, and I walked the rooms the way I always do. Count the windows, check the locks, breathe in the lemon cleaner. The backyard string lights clicked on. Little gold dots across a dark yard. It looked like a life. Mine. Text when you land. Mom said on the phone, clipped and practical. Don't post too much. You know how people get jealous. Of me sitting on a plane for 10 hours? Benjamin. That tone. I could see the pinched smile without seeing her. Just be careful. I will. And if you talk to the bank, ask about extending. Mom, I cut in gently. I'm leaving at 5 in the morning. We'll talk later. There was a pause. Then she went soft. Have fun, honey. I will. I flew out to Maui the next day, my first real vacation in 3 years. No clients. No showings. No. Can you run over and look at this water spot? My phone slept in airplane mode. I read on the beach. I fell asleep to waves and woke up early enough to see the sand turn from gray to gold. A bartender taught me how to cut a pineapple the right way. A kid asked if I was famous because I wore sunglasses and walked fast. I laughed more in 6 days than I had in 6 months. On day 7, I finally turned my phone back on at the hotel breakfast, thinking I'd have a couple texts about mail or packages. My notifications stacked like a Jenga tower. 19 missed calls from Mom, 12 from Dad, 7 from Natalie. A message preview from Dad. Important update about the house. Call now. I stared at the screen, heartbeat thudding in my ears. The papaya on my fork dripped onto the plate. A server refilled my coffee and said, "Everything okay?" I nodded too quickly. I didn't call. I scrolled. Text after text, breath getting tighter, stomach going cold. When I finally pressed the green button, Mom answered on the first ring. "No hello. Where are you?" "In Maui," I said slowly. "Why?" "Well," she said, breathless, almost excited. "We handled something for you." "What did you handle?" "Your house," she said, like it was reasonable. "It's sold." My fork clinked against the plate. "What?" "You're welcome," she said. "You'll understand when you hear the numbers." I opened my mouth, closed it, and then a kid at the next table laughed at something his dad said, and the sound was so normal, so safe, it made my eyes burn. Mom kept talking. "Don't be dramatic, Benjamin. It's done. Come home." I put the phone down on the tablecloth and watched waves slam and pull back and slam again. The noise in my head went from white hiss to sharp beeping. Back home, in a house I'd scraped together piece by piece, something had shifted without me. And then a notification rolled up from Natalie. A single line like a match thrown on gasoline. Finally leveled the playing field. "You can always crash on my couch." I didn't respond. I finished my coffee. I booked the earliest flight. I packed with my hands shaking. And while I zipped my suitcase, the last text of the morning came in from Dad, blunt and proud. "Tough medicine, son. But it's family. You'll thank us." I said nothing. But I smiled, just a little, at the sink while the Hawaiian sun hit the faucet and made it glow. Because the house they sold wasn't what they thought it was. My sister and I grew up in a 3-bedroom ranch that creaked when the wind changed. Mom kept a rainy day jar on top of the fridge and a scoreboard in her head. The jar was for emergencies. The scoreboard was for me. "Benjamin gets straight A's," she'd say. "Good. That's expected." "Natalie gets a C+." She'd clap like the lights just came back on after a storm. Huge improvement. When I got my license, I drove Natalie everywhere. SAT tutoring, nail appointments, parties where I waited outside with a fast food soda while she twirled under string lights and came out smelling like other people's cologne. If I wanted gas money, Dad would say, invest in yourself. If Natalie wanted a new phone, Mom would say, well, she needs to feel connected. At 19, I took a job as an assistant to an agent named Jared who wore loafers with tiny anchors on them. He taught me to read roofs from the curb, to hear termites in walls, to keep my voice calm when sellers shook. At 21, I passed my licensing exam on the second try and cried alone in my car for 10 minutes. Not big sobs, just quiet relief. That first year, I learned the old math. 10 showings for one offer, 2 offers for one sale for a month you can breathe. I wore my only blue suit until the elbows went shiny. I took clients to coffee I couldn't afford. When an older couple hugged me at closing and said, we couldn't have done this without you, I believed them, and it kept me going when I ate microwaved rice and eggs for dinner. Natalie floated, cosmetology course, then influencer dreams, then consulting for a friend's boutique. My parents called it finding herself. She found credit instead. By 26, she had a nice car, 5 store cards, and a habit of posting champagne glasses with captions like, work hard, play harder. I watched the minimum payments crawl upward like vines. Money talk at our house always bent toward her. Just until next month, Mom would say, sliding an envelope across the table. We can't let her drown. Dad would add, she's got potential. Me? I was the plan. Benjamin will figure it out. Mom liked to say, he's good with numbers. I was good with numbers. Numbers bought me the place they thought was my house. When the market dipped 2 years ago, investors stopped moving on a new build near the park. Clean lines, white oak, huge sliding doors. The developer panicked. I'd been brokering their sales. I knew their lender. In that panic, I saw my opening. My mentor's voice echoed, control the asset, control the outcome. I formed a small LLC, Willow Pine Holdings, $300, and a very boring operating agreement. Willow Pine took a master lease on the property with an option to purchase at a pre-agreed price. I paid first and last month plus a security deposit from my savings and Airbnb'd the property legally, with permits, to traveling nurses and families in between homes. The cash flow was steady. The option meant I could buy when my financing lined up, or I could assign the contract to a client for a fee if the market popped. I put my own name nowhere the casual I would look. Not because I was hiding, because I work in real estate, and I have seen relatives get creative when they think they're entitled to your stuff. I told my parents I was staying there. It was easier than explaining beneficial interests and right-to-purchase clauses. I kept the real paperwork in a fireproof box and the scanned copies in an encrypted folder labeled taxes. The deed wasn't in my name. The lease wasn't in my name. Even the mailbox had a discreet silver plate that read WPH, LLC. Meanwhile, Natalie's numbers multiplied. Car note, $642. 4 cards, $17,300, $9,700, $12,600, for $1,900. Personal loan, $28,000. Then the jump, an investor course financed at 19.9% APR. After that came the quiet stuff. Rent she didn't make, lashes she didn't cancel, dinners charged on cards that grinned back at her from every photo. She'd text me at 1 a.m. Can you spot me $300? It's for a business thing. I'll pay you back Friday. I spotted her twice. She didn't pay me back either time. I told her no the third time. She told Mom. Mom told me I was cruel. The day before my trip, Natalie came by the property while I was changing light bulbs. This place is so you, she said, spinning in the kitchen. A little boring, very neat. It's a rental, I said. She grinned. You always downplay. She leaned on the island. You know what's not boring? Hawaii. Who are you going with? Myself. Lame. She popped her gum. Can you Venmo me $600? I'll send it back Tuesday. No, I said. Stop asking. She rolled her eyes. Whatever. Must be nice to hoard. I watched her leave and wrote in my notes app, no more loans. No more rescues. I underlined it. 4 days into my trip, she posted a story with a cocktail and the caption, celebrating big life moves. I swiped past it. I didn't want to know. Then my parents did the thing they always do when they're scared. They called it handling something. Natalie's debt had hit $214,000. $214,000. I found out the number later in black and white. At the time, I only had a vibration of dread and my mother's voice saying, you'll understand when you hear the numbers. According to texts they later bragged about in the family group chat, here's how it went. Mom, Dad, and Natalie met with a cash buyer at a diner. Mom printed a Zillow screenshot of my property and set it on the table like an offering. The buyer, shaved head, golf shirt, said he could wire the funds in 24 hours if they signed a quick deed and a seller's affidavit. He'd take care of the back taxes. There were no back taxes, but that's the line. Can we do it without Benjamin? Mom asked. He's unavailable. Does he own it? The buyer asked. It's his house, Mom said firmly. Natalie asked what the finder's fee would be if she brought him a second house. I saw that line later and put my phone down and walked the hallway twice so I wouldn't throw it. The buyer printed a bargain bin deed form and slid it over a ketchup stain. Mom signed my name in shaky block letters. Dad witnessed. Natalie filmed a boomerang with the sold caption and a confetti gif. The wire hit their joint account the next afternoon. $380,000 less a shady service fee. They used $214,000 to save Natalie. They paid off their car. They set aside a chunk for a family trip. They left a little for me to get back on my feet. That was the part that nearly made me laugh out loud when I read it later. They thought they'd solved a problem. They had, but not the one they thought. Because you can't sell what you don't own. Because the owner of record was Willow Pine Holdings, LLC. Because the signature they forged wasn't mine. It was nobody's. And because the buyer? He didn't buy anything. He bought a lawsuit. I got back on a red eye. Eyes sandpaper, jaw tight. I didn't go to my parents' house. I went straight to the property. A moving truck was in the driveway. My mother stood in the yard in her church sandals, hands on hips, directing two guys like she was a foreman and not a person who had committed 3 different crimes in 48 hours. There he is, she called when she saw me. Her voice had that bright edge it gets when she's already decided you're wrong. We were worried you'd miss us. Miss what? I asked, walking past her. The front door was propped open with a paint can. The house smelled like Windex and warm drywall. Closing out, she said. New owner wants to start renovations immediately. I looked at the new owner, who was standing by the mantel taking photos like an influencer. Golf shirt. Same guy. He gave me a nod, confident and bored. He did not know who I was. He did not know what I knew. Natalie strolled out of the kitchen in a sweatshirt that said blessed. She looked me up and down like I was a guest who arrived without wine. Hey, Benny. How was Maui? I'm not doing this in the yard, I said. Everyone, living room. Now, they followed, the way people follow when they think they still own the narrative. We sat. Mom crossed her ankles. Dad stayed standing, hands in pockets, the way he does when he expects to be thanked. The buyer checked his phone. So, Mom began brightly. We made a tough call, but family comes first. I took a breath that felt like its own decision. You sold a house that doesn't belong to you. Silence. Mom's smile twitched. Don't be childish. It's your house. Everyone knows it. No, I said. It's a property my LLC controls under a master lease with a recorded option to purchase. The title is clean, and it does not have my name on it anywhere. The deed you signed is not a deed. It's scribbles on paper. The buyer stopped pretending to scroll. Natalie snorted. Oh my God, Ben. Nobody cares about your little paperwork games. I turned to her. Did you pay off your debt with the wire? Her chin lifted. Yes. How much? She blinked. I don't have to tell you that. You do, I said quietly. If you used proceeds from a fraudulent conveyance. Dad stepped forward. Watch your tone. I met his eyes. No. What did you just say? I kept my voice level. No. He stared like I'd spoken a language he didn't recognize. Mom tried again, voice honeyed. Benjamin, we saved your credit. We got you out from under that mortgage. There was no mortgage, I said. There was an option. There was income. And there were tenants with bookings through October that you just canceled in a group text like you were rearranging brunch. Her mouth opened and closed. The buyer cleared his throat. Look, we can unwind this if. You should definitely unwind this, I said, turning to him. And call your attorney before you record anything. Because if you cloud my title, I will come for your E&O, and I will not settle. His face did a quick calculation. He took a step back. This is a family matter, he said weakly, and slipped outside to take a call. Mom's eyes went flinty. We did what had to be done. Natalie was drowning. Natalie folded her arms. I'm not apologizing for not wanting my life destroyed. I let my hands rest on my knees so they wouldn't shake. I didn't ask for an apology. I'm setting a boundary. Dad scoffed. Here we go? Therapy talk. I nodded. Call it whatever you want. But listen carefully because I'm only saying this once. Everyone went still in that way people do when they hear something unfamiliar and powerful and think it might be about them. This isn't about revenge, I said. This is about closure. Mom laughed sharp. Closure? You're being dramatic. I stood. My legs felt steady. I've already contacted the developer and the title company. We're filing an affidavit of fraud and a notice of interest to block any recording. The wire will be returned by your very helpful new friend, and the buyer will move on to bother some other family. If the funds don't come back, we'll let a judge handle it. Either way, you used my name where it didn't belong. That's forgery. That's identity theft. I'm not calling the police today because I'm not trying to put my mother in a mugshot. I am, however, done. Mom's voice dropped. Done with what? Being your plan, I said. Being your rainy day jar. Being the person you take from, and then tell to say thank you. Natalie rolled her eyes. Oh, please. You act like you're some saint. You hoard money and call it discipline. I call it rent paid on time, I said. I call it taxes filed. I call it not stealing. She flushed. We didn't. You did, I said. And this is the last time. Dad pointed at the door. You can get out of our family if you're going to talk like that. I almost smiled. I already did. You don't know what silence is until you shut off a group chat that's been screaming for years. I muted the family thread. I blocked Natalie. I put my parents on deliver quietly. Then I drove to my office, closed my door, and exhaled so long my lungs felt empty. My paralegal friend, Shay, met me with a legal pad and a highlighter. Walk me through every step, she said. Dates, times, amounts. I spread out everything. Lease, option, emails, Airbnb permits. The buyer's contract that looked like it had been pulled from a forum and edited in Paint. The bank statement with the $380,000 wire into my parents' account, then out again to 5 different creditors like a fireworks finale. We wrote names, numbers, and arrows until the page looked like a map of a city's veins. We filed 3 things that afternoon: a notice of fraud at the recorder's office, a cease and desist to the buyer, and a simple, boring letter to my parents requiring them to preserve records. No threats. No exclamation marks. Boring is powerful in real estate. The buyer blinked first. He called me that night. We were just trying to help them, he said, suddenly human, suddenly small. No, I said. You were trying to make 20 grand flipping a title. He sighed. My attorney says I should. Wire it back, I said. Then we both forget this ever happened. He did. 2 days later. The recorder rejected his deed. The county flagged the parcel for attempted fraud. The developer sent me a 1-line email. Handled. I slept for 8 hours without waking up to check my phone. My parents did not let go easily. On Wednesday, Mom called 6 times. I didn't answer. She left 3 voicemails that sounded like Act 1, Act 2, Act 3 of the same play: guilt, anger, threat. Voicemail 1. You're misunderstanding. We did this for you. Call me back so we can fix it. Voicemail 2. I spoke to our pastor. He says you're being prideful. Benjamin, this isn't who you are. Voicemail 3. If you don't talk to us, we're going to tell people what really happened. I listened to them once. Then I saved them to a folder called documentation and went for a walk. Natalie posted a story, a boomerang of her flipping her hair with the caption, "Haters gonna hate." Someone DM'd it to me with the message, "Your sister okay?" I typed and deleted 5 drafts. I settled on yes and put my phone face down. On Friday, Dad showed up at my office without an appointment and told my receptionist he was there to straighten his son out. Shay intercepted him at the door like a friendly bouncer. I need to speak to Benjamin, he said. Shay smiled. He's not available. He tried to push past. She raised an eyebrow. He stopped. Sir, she said calmly, we're on notice regarding a fraud matter. To protect everyone, please put anything you want to communicate in writing. He blinked like the word fraud had a taste. He left. That weekend, I drove back to the property and sat on the floor of the unfurnished living room. The string lights hummed outside. The space had that post-clean smell, lemon and soap. In my head, I saw it. Couch here, table there, a plant that would die anyway, but looked good for 6 months. I could buy it now if I wanted. Financing was clean. My agent brain listed rates and terms. My heart said, not yet. On Monday, Mom texted me a paragraph that started with, "We're family," and ended with, "You owe us a conversation." I replied with 1 line. Everything you need to know is in the letter. 2 hours later, she wrote, "We were scared." I stared at those 3 words until they blurred. I typed, erased, typed, erased. Finally, I wrote, "I know," and put my phone away before I could add anything else. For a month, the text came in waves. 17 in 1 day, then none for 3 days, then 8 in 2 hours. Jacob, my cousin, sent a screenshot of the family group where Natalie called me a landlord leech, and Mom wrote that Benjamin is letting strangers stay in his home for money while his sister suffocates. Aunt Robin chimed in. But he has so much. He could spare a little. I didn't defend myself. I didn't send PDFs. I didn't post receipts. I watered the plan on my desk. I answered clients' questions. I showed a 2-bedroom condo to a nurse who had worked nights for 9 years and cried when she saw the balcony because it faced east and she hadn't seen a sunrise in forever. I put keys in her hand and said, "Welcome home." That felt like clean air. Then came the night everything finally snapped into focus. Sunday dinner. I hadn't been in months, but Dad texted me at 3:14 p.m. "We're eating at 6. You should be here." Not a question, not an apology, an order. I went, not to fight, to end things. When I walked in, the table was set like a magazine photo. Roast chicken, baby's breath in a mason jar, the good plates. Natalie scrolled at the end of the table like a bored princess. Mom looked up with a stiff smile. Dad poured himself water like it was whiskey. "Benjamin," he said. "Good. Sit." I sat. No small talk. No weather. Mom dove right in. "We've been thinking of a plan." I felt something in me smile even before my mouth did. Of course they had. "We realized," Mom continued, "that we were a little rash. But the bills are real. Natalie's apartment is too expensive and she can't move because of her lease. So we need you to." I held up a hand. "Stop." Her eyes narrowed. "Excuse me." I kept my voice steady. "There's no plan. Not with me in it." Dad slammed his hand on the table. The plates jumped. "You watch your mouth in my house." I looked at him and spoke in the calm tone I use on clients who are about to make a decision they'll regret. "I will speak to you like an adult because that's what I am. I'm not funding Natalie's life. I'm not signing anything. I'm not co-signing anything. I'm not selling anything. I'm not moving anyone into any of my properties. I'm not attending any meeting where I am outvoted 3-1 and told it's love." Natalie scoffed. "So you're just going to let your sister drown?" "She's not drowning," I said. "She's swimming in a pool she can't afford and yelling at the lifeguard." Mom's voice went thin. "How dare you?" "Easily," I said. "Because I tried kindness. I tried quiet. I tried giving small amounts, and all it did was drag me into your chaos. So now I'm trying boundaries. They'll hold." Dad leaned forward. "You're ungrateful." "For what?" I asked. "For the years I drove her? For the years I was told to be the bigger person? For the house you tried to sell that you didn't own?" Mom's eyes flashed. "We were saving you." I looked at them both, and then at Natalie, who had gone very still, phone face down like a tiny black mirror. "You weren't saving me," I said. "You were erasing me." Nobody spoke. The clock ticked loud. I pushed my chair back. "I'm done for the night." I stood, then paused. "I'll always answer if someone is sick, or if there's a real emergency. But I'm not your emergency fund." "Not anymore." Natalie snapped. "So you're just going to walk away?" "Yes," I said simply. "From this." I left. The door clicked behind me. Outside, the air felt like water. When I got into my car, my phone buzzed, then buzzed again. 2 calls. 3 calls. 5 calls. I watched the counter go up to 14, then 21, then 33. I turned the phone over so the light faced down and drove home in the dark. I slept. In the morning, I made coffee and listened to the quiet. No text yet. Then, at 8:07, one came through. "From Mom. I don't recognize you." I set the phone down and smiled. "Me neither," I said out loud and took the first sip. 3 months and the noise faded. Mom sends forgiveness articles. I don't reply. Our whole script fits in one line. "I love you. I'm not funding you." Dad's mostly silent. When he asked about rates, I answered like any client. Natalie rebranded to accountability, shredded a card on camera, texted, "Are we okay?" I sent, "We're adults." I exercised the option and bought the house. For peace, not payback. Furnished it slow. 1 chair, 1 lamp, 1 rule. Nothing I'll apologize for. Some nights I sit under the string lights and think, this is mine. Not the walls. The quiet. People want handcuffs. I want boundaries. Charity over lashes. Holiday card. No dinner. No, we won't waive inspection. Missed call from Mom without the stomach drop. Love stayed. The cost changed. For years the bill showed my name whether I'd ordered or not. I put the pen down. At a closing, a teacher cried into my shoulder. "Didn't think I'd ever get here." "I know," I said. That night I ate alone, phone face down, then listened to the yard hum. In the morning, coffee, shower, shoes. On the porch, Mom's voicemail. Lasagna on her steps. No talk. I didn't go. I bought a slice in the park. Simple. Mine. Closure isn't a slam. It's choosing the next door. I'm Benjamin. I work hard. I love my family. I don't pay their bills. If that makes me the villain, fine. I've got a life to live.